What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's podcast. We are here with some of the team. One day we'll get everybody in on an episode. But let's go around the room and introduce ourselves. We've got Terry, the human EMF meter, the world famous Travis Gilbert. We have CJ, the badass medium. We have Joe and his mustache. And then we have our historian, Mr. Dave, the teacher with gender, and then me.
And
But,
who's sitting beside you?
oh yeah, and keep forgetting about her.
The worst. The worst.
And my lovely wife, Melissa, the best. So we've got a bunch of stuff to go into today. A bunch of really crazy evidence and stuff like that. We want to talk a little bit about what happened towards the end of last week's episode, where we had some things going on air. So we'll get into that a little bit later on in the show after we've gone over all the stuff about the Lizzie Borden house. Hey, Aunt Debbie and Maggie, thanks for joining us. So the Lizzie Borden house is located in Fall River, Massachusetts, and basically this goes back to the 1890s, 1892 actually. On August 4th is when this happened, and it's all involving some murders. So you have Lizzie Borden, who was a daughter. She had a sister, Emma. Their father, Andrew Borden, who was a victim, and the stepmother, Abby, Mrs. Borden, who also was a victim. Then there was their uncle John, who was the brother to Mr. Borden's first wife, who had passed away. And then there was Bridget, who was also known as Maggie. She was the maid in the house. So we got a lot of players in this story. And basically, Sarah Borden was the mother that passed away, and Abby ended up marrying Andrew. And Lizzie and Emma, they never really had a good relationship with Abby. And they believed that she had married her father, Andrew, for the money. He was very wealthy from manufacturing and selling caskets and furniture. He got into developing properties. He ran several textile mills. At his death, his estate was valued at $300,000 back in 1890, which in today's standards would be about $9 million. So tension started to develop in the family when Andrew was giving some of Abby's family various real estate, and that caused a lot of problems. Now, when you look at what was going on with the murders, Abby, Mrs. Borden, and Mr. Borden, there's a lot of things that you hear about. You hear about sexual abuse. Maybe Lizzie and Emma were being abused because of the amount of hits that each person took. Mrs. Borden suffered 18 to 19 blows. Mr. Borden suffered 11. So, they kind of, there's the whole story that maybe there was some sort of incest going on, and that was the reason for the attack. And then when there was the trial, Lizzie Borden was acquitted. There wasn't enough evidence. And John, who was the uncle, he basically gave an over-detailed alibi, for where he was in regards to the death of Mrs. Borden. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. There's even a nursery rhyme. Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her mother 40 whacks. When she had saw what she had done, she gave her father 41. However, not everybody knows, but there's actually an additional paragraph to this little nursery rhyme. And it goes, Andrew Borden now is dead. Lizzie hit him on the head. Up in heaven he will sing. On the gallows she will swing. So everyone knows the first stanza. Not many people know that there is a second one. So I want to kind of get right into it. Oh, Kathy's here. She's from the Bergen House, which was another great location. Maybe we'll talk about that on a future episode. Thanks for joining us, Kathy. And Missy couldn't make the live chat. Not much privacy going on for her, but she's tuning in here. So before we go around the room and everything, I want to just play some clips that we got from the Ghost Box session here, so you guys can hear. This is all from the Ghost Box. Let me play this clip for you, and it's just some incredible evidence. Here we go. This is in the maid's room, and here we go. Can Bridget come through and talk to us? Can we hear your voice?
Bridget, can you tell us who the tour guide was this evening?
Lisbeth!
You hear that?
Wow!
Clear. I just got the chills.
That was way clear.
That was fantastic.
Oh my god.
That was awesome.
Who else can you name that's associated with this house? What's Lisbeth's sister? Emma!
M.
I heard
Said
M.
M. She was what?
Are we safe here? You're injured?
Injured?
Or injured? Hmm.
I want to talk to Emma. Is Emma there?
Girl.
Is there anything that you want to say to us?
I thought I heard a really faint Abby.
Did Uncle John do all the killing?
What's your point?
Just one?
Just one.
You're right. You're right. Did you hear that?
Yep.
Yeah. You're home?
Is Uncle John here?
Tired.
It's got meat. I do have some
He was
time.
a butcher.
Oh shit.
Uncle John was a butcher,
Right.
and we got meat.
Meat.
Master. Meat master.
Is that what they called butchers back in the day? Meat
That was
masters?
my nickname in high school.
Yeah, I heard second.
Shell?
Bedroom.
Whose bedroom? Whose bedroom is this?
Mine.
No shit.
Oh. So that's some pretty cool stuff. After Meatmaster, that was great, right? I had to keep that clip in there. But after
Probably not.
and Lizzie left, she wanted to be called Lisbeth. So, that's basically what we were getting a lot of that stuff during the investigation, Lisbeth. So a lot of stuff happened in that room. That was such an active room. We were there for maybe an hour and a half, if not better, because there was just so much stuff going on. We had gun pods going off. And I want to turn this over to CJ because he had some interesting experiences in this room.
In which room?
Maggie's room.
Maggie's room.
Maid.
Yes. So when we first went into the room, my aunt actually thought she saw a shadow figure pass through the doorway. And she was like joking around saying, "Oh, come check out my room. I want to know if there's anything bad in here, if it's safe to stay, this and that." So I went in and I was starting to get this weird feeling like something was definitely in that room. I felt like it was some sort of shadow figure they would have seen if they happened to stay the night there, which we'll get into later. But for the main part, I definitely felt a presence, a strong presence in that room. And that's where we ended up starting the night. So, Terry, did you feel anything when you walked in that room?
No, not upstairs. I didn't feel much.
Or
But
But that's where the maid started looking out for you.
Yeah, that's right. We got an EVP of the maid saying that I reminded her of her grandchild or something like that. So she was kind of protecting me in a sense, which I thought was pretty cool to get validation for that, which our psychic Missy was also able to say that she was following me all night, kind of protecting me from the other spirits that reside there.
Now, another thing that happened there when we were doing all this, the ghost boxing, and you were communicating with Bridget, aka Maggie. Maggie was a derogatory term that they ended up calling her. And Dave, you want to let them know why she was called Maggie?
Maggie was derogatory because it was a term that they would use with Irish girls, and they didn't call her by her original name of Bridget. They wanted to be less formal and to insult her. So they wanted to let her know that they were disrespecting her by calling her Maggie.
So Travis, when we were up in that room, right in that corner, right, I think it looked like a makeup table or something over there. You had seen Bridget, known as Maggie, in that corner. Is that right?
Yes.
What she looked like? I know this was a couple months ago.
Posting from that era.
From that era?
Yeah.
Okay. You remember her being young or old?
Young.
Yeah. And was there anything that she was saying, maybe that you had heard? Or was she doing anything?
I don't remember.
Okay. So from there, there was something that was going on in the room that CJ was going to be staying in, and that was Lizzie's sister Emma's room. Go ahead, CJ.
So Joe and I had the lucky opportunity to split those two rooms, and Joe wanted to take Lizzie, so I wasn't going to argue with him, and I wanted to take Emma. But when I finally stepped into the room, I felt drawn into it for some reason. Like something was telling me, like, this is where you're supposed to sleep. Like I had a feeling that if I ended up staying there and spending the night, that I would see Emma and Lizzie standing in the doorway, kind of like watching me sleep, kind of laughing at us, making fun of us. Like they were kind of pranking us in a way, almost like they were playing with friends of theirs or whatever. So I knew I had to stay in that room. And yeah, unfortunately, I didn't have the opportunity, but it was certainly calling my name. And if I remember correctly, I think Terry also was drawn to that room too. She was feeling
Emma's room.
sort of way about it. Yeah.
Yeah, once CJ stepped into Emma's room, he looked at me and he was like, "Oh, dude, I have to stay here tonight." That's when he told me, he was like, "If we stay here, it's gonna be a really, really active night." And I'm just gonna preface a little bit. You know, from what we said that CJ and I, we didn't spend the night. The one thing I will say is, I don't know if you've noticed it, if anyone else noticed it. Whenever CJ was talking, he said, "If we stay here," he always said, "If we stay here." I don't know if that was just his intuition telling him that, it's not a guarantee, but that's one thing I did pick up on. He always did say, "If we stay here," or not when we go to sleep tonight. He always said, "If we stay here tonight." Just the small things like that I try to pick up on.
I didn't even notice that. That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
Right.
So I would have really loved to investigate that room. Unfortunately, we didn't get to it. So hopefully we do get back there someday.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big house, and we really didn't scratch the surface. We stayed in maybe, I think, like 2 or 3 areas because it was just so much activity going on in each room that you stay where the activity is. And
Right.
we didn't really get to go through and investigate a lot of these rooms. So that's definitely a location that we'll have to go back to and do some more follow-up and kind of get some more answers, because I feel that there's still, even though we did get a lot of questions answered on this investigation, there's still so much more that we don't know that we need to follow up on. And there was a lot of feels going on. CJ had the feels. Terry, you had mentioned that you were feeling something in the dining room area. You want to go into that?
Yeah, I think as soon as we got into the house when we were doing the original tour, with the tour guide from the B&B, CJ and I both felt drawn to that dining room. At that point, we didn't know why, but I just remember during the original tour when everybody was sitting in the library or the living room area that I walked over into the dining room and started looking around just because I had all the feels. And then come to find out, it's where the actual autopsies took place in that room. So,
Yeah. And when you're in there, there's a glass case, and they have like I guess a makeshift type of skull where you could see the amount of damage that was done to Mr. and Mrs. Borden, from the axe. There was crime scene photos that you would find there. You'd find, I think there was like a replica axe that was in there as well. A bunch of stuff. What about you, CJ? Did you get anything out of that dining room?
The whole tour really for me, I was just kind of like spaced out, kind of like not really with it the whole during the whole tour there. So I didn't really know what was going on. So I trust Terry. If she says something was there, then something was there. But as far as I go, I was not really picking up on anything, really paying attention. As far as feelings goes, I was just spaced out, and yeah, that's really all I picked up on.
Okay. So, everybody has their opinion of what had happened actually with these murders. Did Lizzie do it? Did she not? Did somebody else come in to do it? Was it just a random stranger off the street that decided to do it? Was it because of, sexual relations going on? Inappropriately touching the girls? So we had really incredible stuff going on, and that was basically CJ and Travis, who both were shown what had happened during that day. Both of them saw it. So let's start with CJ. This vision that you saw happened in the room that I was staying in, which was with Melissa. We we stayed in the room that Mrs. Borden was hacked. And I was so excited to stay there. I was sharing photos of the crime scene photo with the body there, with the current photo. I'm like, I can't wait to sleep here. So CJ and I went into that room, and he laid down where Mrs. Borden's body was. And you want to go ahead and talk about what happened?
So I laid down on the floor to see if I could kind of get like a feel for what was going to happen. And it was kind of strange because it's kind of like when you're asleep and you have a dream. And I was fully awake, like I knew what was going on. So it was kind of weird when it happened. I can't really explain it, but I basically saw Miss Borden. She was, black and white, wearing the typical the outfit you would wear if you were cleaning, with the apron and the old-fashioned duster. And she came in through the doorway, walked around to the bed, and like got on her knees, started dusting like the side of the bed. And she saw her killer, but she wasn't scared. So, which would help us when we found out who it was really. And that was thanks to Travis, who was able to confirm it, because he is the best that I know. So I'll have to give it to him.
Now, Nick, real quick, if I could talk about people's belief in what happened in this murder.
Sure.
I took a forensics class when I was at Rutgers, and we really delved into the murder. And some of the popular beliefs were that Lizzie, based on the evidence, couldn't have swung the axe because there would have been blood droplets somewhere on her dress. You can't chop and not have the splatter hit you. So there were rumors that Lizzie walked outside to the barn and waved to a neighbor as an alibi to cover herself. But the theory of a stranger getting into the house is almost out the door immediately, because first off, in criminology, strangers never just murder someone. Murder victims know the person killing them 90% of the time. And this was clearly a very, I don't want to say passionate act, but it was full of rage when you chop like that. So a stranger coming in the house, besides the fact that Mr. Borden locked every individual door, and the golden rule was in the house is if you go from one room to the next, you lock the door behind you. So no stranger was getting in that house and having access to all the rooms under those circumstances. So I think most people throw the stranger coming in right out the door. This was clearly an inside job.
Mhm. So CJ, so you saw the actual murder, and did you feel it as well?
It was funny at the time. I didn't feel anything, but I wound up feeling stuff later on in the night, and so did Terry as well as Travis. So it was kind of interesting to see so many people feel all these different things. Was quite interesting and quite unique about this investigation.
Hmm. So tell us what exactly you saw. You saw Mrs. Borden there, and she was dusting on the side of the bed.
Yeah, and that's pretty much all I saw. She saw her. She saw the guy walk in. She wasn't scared, and then she got struck as she was getting up, as she was kind of turning to look at him, and that's really all I saw.
So did you see Lizzie at all?
I unfortunately did not.
Okay. But you did confirm that it was a male that you saw.
Yeah,
Now, were you able to ID that with anybody? There's a bunch of photos of
I wouldn't be able to see. It was more of like a shadow figure, but you could feel like a male presence.
okay.
That's what it more was. I
Mhm.
was really focusing on Miss Borden more so.
Mhm.
I
Okay.
think Travis is the one who ID'd
Mhm.
off of the picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll do that later.
So I'll talk about what happened with Travis. Everybody was downstairs, and I was with Travis upstairs. He went to the bathroom, and we don't usually let people go on investigations and haunted locations with known potential bad to the bathroom alone. So Travis was in the bathroom. I was just hanging outside, and on the upstairs floor, by the bathroom, you can basically look down, and you'll see all the way down, the whole hallway, and all the bedrooms and stuff on the side. So we were there, and Travis stops, and he points, and I'm like, "What do you see, Travis?" And Travis, why don't you go ahead and tell him what you saw?
It was Mrs. Borden going into the one room.
And that room was the one that she was hacked in. So once we saw her, Travis and I went into that room. And go ahead.
So I saw her get down on the floor at the one side of the bed. Then I saw some dude coming with the uncle, and I saw him head toward the same places she was originally hit
Mhm.
in her head.
Now, you ID'd the uncle because in that room, in that very room, there is a picture of the uncle hanging up on the wall. So as soon as he saw that vision, I turned to Travis. I said, "Is this the guy that you're seeing?" And he was able to ID him as the uncle, John Morse, that did the murder. So he was a suspect during the murders. And Dave, why don't you go into a little bit about John and his alibi?
John had an alibi that was more rock solid than almost any alibi in the history of alibis. It just seemed very forced. What we know is that Mr. Borden returned home earlier than he was supposed to. He was down the street. He had had some bad mutton or meat. The meat was spoiled, and people in the family had been getting sick. He was supposed to be gone for a while. When the uncle shows up, the police immediately start to question him because Abby was killed in the room he was staying in. There was no blood on Lizzie. Where had he been? Can we account for your time? And he immediately came up with such great detail, it almost would beg you to think, what's going on here? First, he said that he talked to 5 or 6 Catholic priests on a trolley, and in engaging in conversation with them, he remembered every single one of their names. What's interesting about that is he was English, and the Catholic priests were Irish. And the English almost never associated with the Irish or talked to them unless they had to. So it's kind of odd that he had a conversation with these Irish priests and remembered every one of their names. To make it even stranger, he also offered up that he memorized the ID number of the trolley driver's license. His hat was on his hat. So I don't know anybody that would do that, anybody that would sit there and memorize the license of a hat, unless you wanted to let people know where you were at a certain time. So our theory started to develop based on what Travis was seeing, and that it was a man. We started to conclude that the uncle had killed Abby, and the idea was for the girls to inherit the money and Abby's family not to, because had Andrew died first, Abby's family would have gotten everything. Abby was killed first. And we started to believe through questions and answers and yes or no questions using the music box that we were in direct contact with the uncle. And the messages we were clearly getting were that Andrew was not a target. But when Andrew came home early after Abby was dead, he walked around downstairs. Now, when you're in the house, you walk up 3 steps on that stairway, and you could see into that bedroom. Underneath the bed, you would have seen Abby's body laying there. You would have seen the scene just 3 stairs up. At this point, if he has killed Abby and he needs an alibi and he's supposed to be out of the house now, if Andrew sees him, Andrew puts him at the scene of the crime at the time of the crime. So at this point, the uncle's getting nervous. If he's on the line, he swung the axe. The girls, possibly both girls were in on it. Travis indicated that during the scene, he saw Lizzie standing by the door as though she was guarding the door. And it appeared that the uncle went in and then murdered Andrew. And Travis told us he saw Lizzie very upset. The uncle was in panic mode. And we believe he fled the scene at that moment with the intention of Abby being killed, but not Andrew. Mm-hmm. Emma comes back. And at the end of the day, if Emma's in on it, she's thinking Abby's going to get killed so the girls inherit the money. Now Emma's home and she's found out father's dead. And she doesn't know what happened. Now, we do know that Lizzie and Emma had a very strained relationship after that. They had purchased a house together right there in Fall River nearby, cohabitated for a while, and then had a big falling out. And Emma and Lizzie went their separate ways. I could envision maybe Emma boiled over and questioned Lizzie as to why was father killed? It was just supposed to be Abby. And why couldn't you have done something else? Or why did you allow this to happen? And it possibly caused major friction between the two girls. So that's the theory that started to develop. And a lot of that came out of questions and answers with the uncle. We got yes or no direct answers for quite a while. And we asked very specific questions.
Yep. And even in the maid's room, we asked, one of the questions, did John do it? And one of the responses in that clip that we played earlier, it said, "You're right." A lot of the stuff was kind of swaying it. We got, a foundation for some things during that ghost box session. And then from the visions that CJ and Travis saw, and then there was something else that Travis saw in the parlor room. And Melissa, you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, at the time, people were feeling nauseous, so they were outside. So Travis and I were in the living room, and I saw him. He just kind of put his hands up and goes, "I just saw the murder. I just saw the father get murdered." And he said he's laying there. He's on the couch. So I don't know if Travis, you want to explain what you saw there.
The uncle came running in and started hitting him with the axe.
And what was he doing beforehand? What was the father doing?
The father came in and laid down on the couch.
Was he reading the paper or something? I don't remember. The father might have been reading the paper, but I don't remember.
So you saw the father sitting on the couch, and then the uncle came in and started with the axe.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you see Lizzie during this vision that was shown to you?
The father.
She was by the door.
So Lizzie witnessed the murder of her father.
Yeah.
Did nothing to stop it. And at the door, like she's guarding so someone can't come in and realize what's going on.
Yes.
So Mr. Borden basically was at the wrong place at the wrong time. Now, one of the interesting things happened again in the maid's room, which was a big part of the investigation, is on the ghost box, we got some foreshadowing, and it was the word nauseous that clearly came through. And that was basically the theme throughout the entire investigation. You want to tell us about what actually happened with all the nausea?
Well, it started. It was so much that I just remember at one point CJ wasn't feeling well, and he had gone out a few times, feeling nauseous. And then there was some women who had accompanied us. I think it was about 3 or 4 women who were going to stay. And then at one point, they actually started to not feel well. And then they started to get sick. And then not long after, Terry started to feel nauseous. So it was basically they were trying to take everybody out one by one. They didn't want us to be there. They didn't want us to find out what had actually happened. But they had actually warned CJ ahead of time, because I feel like they knew CJ would be the one to probably put 2 and 2 together.
Since CJ's still learning his abilities, because from maybe 6 months ago to today, big difference. And he's laughing. He's like, "Yeah, it is."
Sadly, yeah.
So he's so open right now, and the maid, she said, "Close yourself up," because I think she felt that you were going to be a target during this investigation. So we had these, I think it was 3 women that got sick. They all left. And then why don't you and Joe tell us what happened exactly between you guys and why you guys had to leave the investigation?
So I'll start it off just real quick. I think my first investigation with CJ was Phelps, right? That was
No, it was actually my first investigation.
That was your first investigation.
Was the
the lodge? That's right.
Yeah.
So
but the first real one was Phelps, really.
Yeah. There's something. Obviously, we all know that CJ has abilities, and he's very open, and he's improving his skills day by day. They're just going up tenfold. I don't have abilities, but there's something that CJ and I share that we'll catch on to things very easily. Like, I'll hear something very, very faint, and before I can even make a move, CJ will come to me, "Did you hear that?" Or I'll look at him and he'll, "Did you hear that?" So we're very, very in sync when it comes to actually physical things actually happening. Obviously, CJ's more in sync spiritually. I'm more in sync with, like hearing things and seeing things. So him and I, we actually work really, really well together. And CJ, it was your aunt and 2 of her friends, right?
Yeah.
So what had happened was, I'll let you, I spoke about before, I'll let TJ explain exactly what happened as to why we made the decision to get him out of there.
So basically the whole night I was communicating with Joe, and I was basically telling him, like, look, it's gonna be a bad night. Like, things are gonna get pretty intense. I knew right off the bat that it was gonna be intense for everybody. But ever since we got there, it all started when I just had to go to the bathroom to pee. Next thing you know, I'm throwing up like every 20 minutes. I'm outside thrown up. And at this point, it was just Terry and I. I would run out. 5 minutes later, she would run out. And it felt like it was never ending, really. But at the same time, that's what happens when you do what we do. You get sick every now and then. But the what really drew my attention and really basically everyone was like, you gotta leave, was when we started doing the blindfold spirit box session.
The audio
The
sensory.
audio sensory, yes.
Yeah.
I really just put on the blindfold and the headphones, and I was listening, see if I could pick up any words or any message that would come through. And unfortunately, I got a vision of a good friend of mine and I being hacked to death, similarly to what had happened in the house. And when I saw that, it was very disturbing, and I don't wish anyone to see that kind of stuff. But it was just a little too much for me, and I got sick out of it. I ran outside, and I was thrown up. And the issue is that I kept throwing up outside the location. And usually, when you leave a location, you leave that energy within the location. And once you get the fresh air and you kind of ground yourself, you start to feel better. But when the energy follows you outside of location, that's not really a good sign, and kind of a warning, really, and saying you guys got to pack it up. It's time to go. So that's when Joe was like, all right, we're calling it out. I'm going to take him to a hotel. And things even continued happening there that Joe could tell you about.
So when we were at the hotel, we made the decision to kind of have CJ completely disconnected from everything that was going on because it was such a safety concern. When we do things like this, obviously safety is one of our main priorities. So the big thing was, I was watching the live. I put headphones in, so he didn't hear anything. He didn't know what was going on. And on the live, we actually found out that I believe Terry was having some sort of back pain. And CJ actually came to me and he was like, dude, like my back hurts. I was like, well, I didn't want to tell him immediately, well, that's what's going on here, because we wanted to keep him disconnected. But I commented on our live. If you go back to the archive you could probably see our comments. And I said, CJ is having back pain similar to Terry. And that's when things kind of got a little wild from there. I believe your aunt and her two friends, they were also sick.
Yeah,
and
I believe
they had no abilities or anything like that either. So that just goes to show how strong the energy was that was in that location. And also it goes to show how connected not only CJ and Terry are, it's CJ, Terry, and Missy. All three of them, they kind of feel what each other feels. So for CJ to have no idea about what was going on and him just randomly say to me, hey dude, like my back hurts, that's when I was like, this is something serious.
And the back pain that I was having, it wasn't just a minor back pain. So when CJ left and the ladies left, I was the next target. So as I was getting sicker and making my way closer to the door, I could feel that Lizzie and her uncle were also getting closer to me and essentially pushing me out the door. So when I went out the door to puke because I was sick, I started to come back in. And at that time, I felt like someone was hacking me in my back. Like I literally was on my knees in pain. It felt like someone was stabbing me in the back. And that's the back pain that CJ was feeling in his hotel room while I was at the location.
Did we have the Connect cam up during that? I don't remember.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that a little bit about the Connect, because that was some interesting stuff as well. But going back to the connection that Terry, CJ, and Missy has, when I was outside, trying to be with CJ and all, he was texting Missy, and Missy was like, I feel sick. And she was picking up on your nausea as well. When Terry she went into the kitchen because she was going to be going to puke. I felt something really cold just hit me. And then the REM pod right in the doorway to the kitchen went off, at the same time. And then you got affected and ran out.
Right.
So that was just the whole chain of events was just crazy. And it's never easy to see, you know, a team member, you know, especially somebody that you care about, just keeled over in pain. Like it sucks. It really sucks. But unfortunately, these are some of the risks that we take dealing with the unknown. You never know what's going to happen, especially with people that are just so open. The risk is always there. You know, even bringing energy home with you that you don't want. It happens. You know, we've all had attachments at one point doing this, so it's definitely tough. So from then on, after they had left, we went into the room where Mr. Borden was killed, and so we put the music box right in the doorway, which is where uh, Travis saw John come through and then hit Mr. Borden, and that's where he also saw Lizzie Borden. So we're gonna play this clip now. This is we did this game. It's called the 1 yes 2 no game, and it's basically we ask the spirits, light it up once for yes, 2 for no, and this way we can kind of get some answers that way. So let's play this clip right here.
Is it you, John?
John, if it's you, make the music box go on.
Wow.
Good job, John.
Thank you.
Incredible.
Thank you.
Do you want to play the 1 yes 2 no game?
John, if you could take it all back, would you?
Make it go 1 for yes or 2 for no.
Yes.
1, yeah.
He would take it back.
You wish you could live that day over again?
Do it differently.
1 for yes, 2 for no.
One. Unbelievable.
Are you with Lizzie right now? Do you communicate with Lizzie?
Yes. Is
Should
she
we
in
be
the
live
house
for
too?
this?
Are you remorseful?
Do you feel you're being punished right now, John?
Well, 1 for yes again.
Are you not able to leave this house because of it?
Do you choose to stay in this house?
1 yes. Yes. Huh?
Or
Maybe
no?
no.
I don't know. It's a no. I think that's a no.
I think so
I
too.
don't think he chooses to be here.
Did you make everybody sick so that they would leave? 1 yes 2 no. Yes.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
You see,
Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff indeed. So, you know, we were getting the music box stuff going on, and then Mel took the Connect Cam. You want to tell us what was going on during that whole segment?
Well, during the whole 1 yes 2 no game, Dave got incredibly drained. He was completely fine, and then like the next minute, you could just see he was just kind of like sinking. He was just like falling out, and he was wide awake before. He had taken his energy shot. He was good. And I was holding the Connect Cam, and I aimed it towards him, and for about a minute, there was a stick figure that we had captured, and it was right above his head. I don't know who it was, but obviously we assume that's this energy, the spirit that was taking his energy. Maybe it was John to continue playing the game, or maybe he was asking too relevant of questions, and I wanted to kind of cut that off. So
Now, I can say when I felt drained, I did have a 5-hour energy shot and I was wide awake. When I felt, it almost feels like you're on anesthesia and you just start getting tired when you're counting backwards. But I remember them talking and I heard what they were saying there's a figure on Dave. And they were asking me if I was okay. And they said there's a figure on Dave right now. And I could hear what they were saying, but I was too tired to even respond. I was done. When we wrapped up, I went up to bed and I realized I was sleeping in Lizzie's rooms now. And CJ and Joe had left. And somebody Maggie said to me, "Are you afraid to be sleeping in Lizzie's room?" And I'm like, "Am I afraid to be sleeping in Lizzie's room? I'm going to be sleeping 10 seconds. I don't care where I'm sleeping tonight." And I was out. I was done for the night out of nowhere, just completely drained.
And remember, everybody was so freaked out by the time we went to bed that Maggie Dunn, who comes with us occasionally,
We love Maggie.
Maggie.
She ended up sleeping on the little bench. I don't know what else to call it. It's kind of like a chase lounge.
Yes.
But a chase lounge from the 1800s was tiny. And Maggie ended up sleeping in that beside Dave's bed because she was afraid to sleep even in the attached bedroom.
I think I made him sleep with the lights on that night.
Yeah.
Well, what we do, what Melissa and I do when we stay at haunted locations, after we bother these spirits, the whole investigation, then it's like, all right, well, now I'm going to go to sleep, so don't bother me. So what I usually do is I'll take the digital recorder and say, we're going to go to sleep now. We'll be out in the morning. Is it okay if we stay here? And most times I'll get an answer like, okay, fine, or whatever. So when we did this, this EVP session in our bedroom, the first thing we got was get out. And then after that, we didn't get anything else other than the get out. So usually they're fine with it, probably about 95% of the time. It's only Lizzie Borden house and the Marshall house in Savannah where we had an issue where the spirits just did not want us to be there. Like at Marshall house, the spirit didn't want us to stay. And I'm like, we'll be out in the morning. And we actually got an EVP that says what time. It's mind-blowing, some of the stuff that you get. So, but so now, we kind of covered the investigation and all. And let's go back to last week's episode. Towards the end of the episode, there was some stuff that was actually happening on camera. So Terry, CJ, are two usual targets.
Yeah.
For
Can I just jump in real quick for a quick funny? Eric, for whatever reason, wanted to go see CJ tonight. So we told Eric to go touch CJ on his right shoulder. And right after we did that, CJ actually looked down to his shoulder, but he said he didn't get touched. But he looked down to his right shoulder like a minute after we told Eric to touch CJ's shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of funny.
For those that don't know, Eric is a spirit that Travis saw at his high school that he kind of ended up becoming friends with because Travis can see and talk to spirits. So Eric will come out on the investigations. He'll kind of do some recon around the property, and he'll be like, Eric says go into this room, or this is going to be a good place tonight. So he's always just kind of looking out for everybody. So Terry, you want to talk about what was going on last week towards the end of the broadcast?
Right. So back to last week. So towards the end of the broadcast, I have an alarm system on my house. And so to get in the front door is a code. And when or I could do it from my phone or from the switchboard in the living room. So, but when you do that from the code or from the phone, you can hear the motor run as the door unlocks. So it definitely told me that it's somebody from the outside or somebody did it from my phone. They unlocked the front door. So it freaked me out right after the I think during the podcast, I was already sending pictures to Missy and Fernando to try to figure out what was going on. They both ended up figuring out that it was just my brother letting me know he was here.
Mm-hmm. So, and Fernando's the shaman that we work with on a lot of the client cases or a lot of personal maintenance when it comes to energies that we may get off of these locations.
Right. Fernando helps us tremendously. And for those who may not know, my brother passed away on Christmas Eve. So I'm still in the grieving process. And it brings me a lot of comfort to know he's here. So. Mm-hmm. And then CJ also had something going on during the podcast.
Yeah, so during the podcast, I wasn't really feeling well. And so with everything that Terry was going on, we just wanted to double check, make sure everything was okay. So I sent up pictures of everything to Missy, and she took a look at it, and she felt like a heavy woman presence or something like that. But we don't know what happened about it. Like, she's not here anymore. Everything's fine. Donna checked it out. Nothing was there. But it was crazy because when this whole thing was going on, we were trying to call each other, and it wasn't letting me or Missy answer the phone. Like, you would look at the phone and the notification would come up, and then it would just disappear like something was hitting decline. And this happened like 6 or 7 times until we're like, something doesn't want us to communicate. We're still trying to figure out what it was, because we truly believe something was like preventing us from, trying to split us up or something like that. Fernando's looking into it, so we're just going to continue to see if anything else happens. That's strange, but it's been quiet so far, and I like quiet, so let's keep it that way.
We assume it was a passerby at CJ's house, but during the podcast, I noticed, because I tend to watch everybody, especially CJ, because I could feel a lot of stuff that he feels. But during the podcast, he was looking up, he was looking to the side, so I could tell something was there, but we just assume it was a passerby, which happens occasionally.
And since then, we've been trying to get some Reiki done to you guys, and it's like every place that we're trying to go to is booked up. So Fernando, our badass shaman, was able to do remote Reiki and kind of lift off some of the energies that you two and Missy both had. So hopefully things are going to be a little more calmer now, and things will be less active in our own homes. Let's keep that for the locations that we investigate.
Right.
So that being said, our next investigation is February 20th, and that is in, where is that?
King George, Virginia.
King George, Virginia. We are at, what's the name of the place?
Belgrove Plantation. And the history on that location goes back to 1668.
Wow.
The year 1668. So there's 300 years worth of history there. So I think it's going to be a really cool location.
Yep. And the best part is we've got that entire place to ourselves.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited about that. And then in April 17th, we are going to Sweet Springs, Virginia, for the Sweet Springs Sanitarium, which you may have seen.
West Virginia.
West Virginia.
Silver Springs is in Virginia.
There you go. Which is, you saw the episode on Destination Fear when they all went to the sanitarium over there. They got a bunch of good stuff, and I'm very anxious to see what we will get over there. So, that's basically our show for today. If you guys want us to do a show about any specific location, or if you want to ask us any questions, drop it into the comments. We will be more than happy to answer them. And we will be back again next Monday at 8 p.m. We hope you'll be joining us to talk some more paranormal. And thank you guys for tuning in with us today.
That's 8 p.m. Eastern time.
Yes, 8 p.m. Eastern.
Eastern.
There you go. Any closing comments from anybody?
I just have one thing, Nick. If you just want, I should have said it earlier. If we can just backpedal, you were talking about Fernando giving remote Reiki.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people don't know exactly what that is or what it's good for, and I know you probably know the most. If you just want to give just like a quick explanation so everyone kind of has an understanding of it.
Of what Reiki is.
You want to go into it?
Reiki is essentially an energy cleansing. It can be, you don't have to do what we do in order to get the energy cleansing. You can, no matter what, you can go in, find a Reiki master, and they will cleanse your energy. And sometimes you will feel things during, and it's outstanding and strange, but often fascinating. But you'll come out feeling amazing.
Now, I was the biggest skeptic when it came to Reiki. I'm like, all right, I'll try it out. And I went into the room, laid down on this table, and this is after we talked about a bunch of stuff. And you basically just relax. They do this thing with the hands over you. They don't touch you. They may put crystals on you to different chakra points to clear them. Depending on how deep the energy you may have, they may use shamanic tools. I know Isabella, the lady that we go to get cleansed, she'll sometimes break out the shamanic tools. It's like a rattle, and hit that rattle, and it clears up the energy and stuff like that. You may see visions. You may feel pressure on certain areas. I know when I go, I usually feel it right here in my third eye. I'll also feel like something from the back of my head, like someone is just like pulling a rope out. I've felt things on my chest that weren't there. I've felt like sometimes someone like grabbing my ankles, and then I'll kind of like open my eyes and I'll look down, and this lady's behind me. Nobody down by there. But sometimes when you come out of the Reiki, you may get really emotional. A couple times I kind of just broke down because a lot of the stuff that you may be suppressing will start coming up. And it's all part of the purging process to get cleansed, get rid of any type of, energy that you don't need, and just clear yourself. And you can feel a million times better by doing the Reiki. So
it's also really good for anxiety, or if you have aches or pains, joint pains. He has knee problems, and when he goes, his knee will feel legitimately better. So
yeah, we go to Reiki by Isabella. That's a plug for her, free plug. In New Jersey, she's in Union, about 10 minutes from me, if that. That's the one that we go to, and we try to go, every couple months. And if we can't get in to see her, we'll resort to doing remote Reiki. But that's what we need to do being in this field. So other than that, thanks for checking in with us, and we will be back next Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
Eastern
Bye-bye.
time.
You want to
All
wave
right, guys.
goodbye? Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.